Maybe you've met this person before. Something miraculous happens, they say, God did it. Or something miraculous doesn't happen, they say, God works in mysterious ways. They pray for something and it happens, God answered my prayer. They pray and nothing happens, God has a different plan. A child survives against all odds. It's a miracle, God saved them. Or a child dies, God called them home. Every possible outcome becomes evidence for the same conclusion. And after a while, you start noticing something strange. There seems to be no situation where the theory can actually fail, no observation that disproves it, no outcome that contradicts it. And maybe that's why the idea of God has never fully made sense to you. Not because you hate religion, not because you think believers are stupid, but because somewhere deep down you instinctively expect ideas to risk being wrong. Scientific thinking works differently. Science does not begin with a conclusion and then reinterpret every outcome to protect it. Instead, science creates theories that can collide with reality, theories that can fail. Imagine someone says, all swans are white. At first, that sounds easy to prove. You find one white swan, then another, then 1,000 more. No matter how many white swans you discover, you still cannot prove the statement true. Because somewhere in the world, there could be a single black swan waiting to destroy the entire idea. And the moment you find it, the theory collapses. That's the strange asymmetry at the heart of science. You can never fully prove an idea true, but you can prove it false. Maybe science is less like building something, and more like sculpting. Imagine a sculptor standing before a giant block of stone. Hidden somewhere inside it is a possible shape, a possible truth. But the sculptor does not reveal the statue by protecting the stone. He reveals it by cutting pieces away, again and again. Each strike removes what does not belong, and slowly, through elimination, the shape becomes clearer. Maybe scientific theories work the same way. A scientist begins with an idea about reality, then reality itself becomes the hammer. Experiments, observations, contradictions. Each test attempts to break the theory, to carve away the parts that fail. And if the theory survives, it remains standing, not because it was proven perfect, but because reality failed to destroy it. This is the insight philosopher Karl Popper became famous for. Science does not move forward by proving ideas unquestionably true. It moves forward by eliminating what turns out to be false. A theory becomes scientific when reality has the power to contradict it, when it risks failure. Because if an idea can explain every possible outcome, then no possible outcome actually tests it. And a theory that cannot fail also cannot truly succeed. And this brings us back to God. The problem scientifically is not that God has been disproven. The problem is that the God hypothesis is structured in a way that avoids scientific testing entirely. God exists outside of space, outside of time, outside of direct observation, outside of measurement, outside of human comprehension itself, which means there is no experiment capable of reaching him, no observation capable of contradicting him. The hammer never reaches the stone. Instead, you are invited to believe the sculpture is real, even though it has not been carved out at all. And because of that, the God idea behaves very differently from a scientific theory. Scientifically speaking, it is unfalsifiable, untestable, not because science discovered God to be false, but because the claim exists outside the boundaries of what science can actually evaluate. Now, that does not automatically mean God does not exist. That conclusion would go beyond science too. Science can test what enters observable reality, but if something is defined as existing beyond observation itself, science may simply have nothing to say about it. And maybe that's why debates between science and religion so often go in circles, because they are sometimes trying to answer completely different kinds of questions. One asks, what can be tested? The other asks, what gives meaning? But if there is one thing Popper understood, it is that science earns credibility by allowing reality to prove it wrong. It moves forward through doubt, through testing, through failure. And maybe that's why certain people struggle with religious explanations. Not because they reject mystery, but because they instinctively distrust ideas that can never lose. Because once a theory becomes compatible with every possible outcome, it stops predicting reality and starts absorbing it.